Okay, I'd like to call the study session to order. Would you all please rise for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome all of our visitors here this morning. And the first order of business is public comment.
All right, I guess I can start. I just want to remind everybody that 2020 is just around the corner. And I would hope we would think of redistricting the county board positions that we didn't redistrict in 2010 that we probably should have. And the next thing is, I understand you're going to talk about ambulance service for northern Edgar County, which may or may not include the Horizon Healthcare System. I would ask that you determine what would happen to the per capita payments that a lot of the municipal and maybe townships are paying to northern Edgar County Ambulance Service. Is there a service agreement that in writing? Are they going to give that to Horizon Healthcare? Do the townships and the municipalities in northern Edgar County wish to join or expand the one that's down here, ECSSAA? Think about inviting the townships and northern municipalities to provide a resolution stating their preference. Do they want Horizon Healthcare to be their first responder if Northern Edgar County Ambulance doesn't or doesn't have the people to do it, or would they rather ECSSAA do it, or would they want to expand the special service area? And as I understand it, ECSSAA is currently the backup for the Northern Edgar County Ambulance Service. And what would happen to that if the county would place Horizon as the backup? Or I don't even know who's got the authority to do what, but there's questions that need to be asked other than just, hey, does it make sense to have Horizon Healthcare do it? Nothing against Northern Edgar County Ambulance, but there's a lot more to think about. And I think the taxpayers and local governments in Northern Edgar County deserve the opportunity to have their voice, and they need to put their voice as a resolution, in my opinion. That way they can't come back and complain later. So that's all I got, thanks.
Any other public comments? Hearing none, we'll go on with the agenda. This morning, you have on your agenda the Northern Edgar County Ambulance Service. And they asked me if they could come before the board to talk about options, what they'd like to have us know so that we can maybe help them where appropriate. At this point, we've also talked to the state's attorney based on your attorney's initial exploration of what's possible and what's not. And so our state's attorney is looking at some of the questions that John just enumerated. So, Nary, which one of you is going to speak first?
Chief. Well, I'm just one of the board members up there, but
Could you introduce yourself so everybody
Kevin
knows?
Julian.
Thank you, Kevin.
We've run that and done a pretty good job, I think, for 30-some years, but over the years, our biggest problem is just keeping volunteers to give us enough hours. And at the point now, where we're running so short, But our plan is if we go to a paid service, we think we could cover it better. But, you know, when you do that, we have to have a lot more money. Right now, we got 6 towns and 3 towns, or 6 townships and 3 towns, and all those together is only contributing about $22,000 total a year. And we've been getting by for a long time on that. In fact, a few years ago, we talked about lowering our subsidies a little bit, but we never did. But now with 2018, you know, everything we have to buy costs ungodly amount. You know, we take a hit every single month, you know, like for Medicare, Medicaid. And we're not to the point now where we just can't, we're about the point where we just can't make it anymore. So basically, we're down here looking for answers.
And the attorney said that we couldn't do this on our own. County board has to do it.
Originally, we thought we could just get a different taxing district. We hired Dick James to look into it, and he said you have to have 10,000 people in that district to get that special tax through. We've only got about 3,300. So that kind of knocked us out there, so that's when we started talking to Jeff, and he's been putting some ideas together, and that's where we're at today.
Board questions?
So they said you had to have 10, say that again, exactly, you had to have 10,000.
Dick James tells us state law says you have to have 10,000 people in our ambulance district to be able to get our own taxi.
Okay.
To create a special taxi
Right.
district,
Is that,
like the other 8 townships.
is that determined by population?
Yeah.
Okay, so, okay.
But currently, you said you're levying the townships.
They're not levied.
No, they're giving
Okay.
us subsidies, and it was put in, well, back in the 80s, per resident, you know. Like I'm in Shiloh Township, and we pay about $1,900 a year.
Okay, but the township actually is putting up the money
Yeah.
based on the number of people.
Right.
Okay,
And like I said, right now, it's
so
about-
it's not levied, it's just a township
They have a
financial
board
decision.
that's
Right.
made up of representatives
It comes
of
out of
each
town
of the
fund.
townships.
Sure, sure.
And they have no levying power,
Right,
okay? So they went to Dick asking for what were their options.
right, gotcha.
As far as a special taxing district, and that was the answer they got. We then went to the state's.
What are the options?
Well, we don't know that yet.
Oh,
The state's attorney is looking at the option of expanding the current district, the special taxing district. You know, then setting up a committee from representatives of all of the townships that currently are not represented in the special ambulance district. Go ahead, please.
so the one down here covers 8 townships?
8 townships.
And then you guys cover the rest of them?
Yeah.
Well, we covered.
Well, Kansas.
Kansas is on its own, and
Embarrass?
Embarrass, we got 7 down here.
yeah.
Is it 7?
Then the
I
6
thought
up
it was
there.
8. Okay.
We only have
Right.
So is
6 and
Embarrass,
7.
where are they at? They alone?
Yeah,
They're not represented by anybody?
They're getting
They're in
theirs from the
Oakland, I
west.
think.
they go with Oakland. They made an agreement with Oakland.
Well, I don't think that's the case anymore. I think
I think when they closed down, they
Yeah.
went back to Paris.
Paris does, because Brockton, anytime it was in the Brockton
I'm
Fire
sorry, you're
District,
right.
we
You're
called
right.
Oakland,
That's right,
and now it's
Yeah, they call
Paris
it.
ambulance coverage.
but they're not in the district.
But they're not in the
so they just
district.
have
That could
7
be-
towns.
Okay.
There's a lot of questions right now, Carl, and not a lot of answers. Okay, we're still in the, I think the both of these guys and gals wanted to come down and make sure that we were aware of what their plight was.
Yeah, I
And
wasn't
they're
aware of
asking
that.
for help,
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
and we're just trying to
Mhm.
get the answers so that we can then consider what would be the best course to do. And make sure everybody's represented before a final decision
because
is made.
that's something that has to, would like I think it went to referendum, didn't it, down here when they did the Paris, the
Yeah.
one here?
No, it was all, it was public hearings, and that's how it was set up.
Now, the one down here, do they have a special tax body where they levy under?
Yeah, they have a.
They levy under us.
So one of the possibilities would be to roll it all into one special taxing body and, you know, split the funding between the two?
And then
Okay.
make sure that we include Kansas and Embarrass. They may say,
If
don't
they
worry
want to
about,
be,
right,
yeah.
we can't force anybody into anything. But we need to involve people in the questions. And, you know, we don't want somebody coming back to us in 2 years and say, how come you didn't include us in the solution? So,
Yeah.
Are you asking for one for the entire county or two, Northern?
no, it would have to be one
One.
if that was the option.
Although
Because
they
we-
could have two
Because of the
services
population.
Yes.
split up.
So anyway, the state's attorney's on that, and he said he would have an answer. That's why he's researching this question, and then he'll research the one on the transfers. And him being out of the office. So it's important for everybody to understand what some of the issues were. John, you had a comment?
My comment was probably answered. I was gonna say, even if you expand it, you're not limited to contracting with only E ECSSA.
No.
You could have two contracts with, you know, the new portion and the old portion.
That's because obviously some of these areas, townships, want to maintain their facility.
Yeah.
Everybody wants, number one, good transportation system so that we can keep our citizens as healthy as we can and give them aid as quickly as we can. And so we don't want to forego, I mean, you know, I'm sure Kansas wants to maintain theirs, Chrisman wants to maintain, because otherwise you're looking at, what, an hour and 15 minutes round
Yeah.
trip? I mean, those are all the questions that have got to be answered and considered.
One more question for you guys, but, so as everything's working now, with the exception of the funding, I mean, you guys are happy with the system and think it's a good system for
Our
the
biggest
people up
problem
there?
now, maybe even more than the funding, is getting the EMTs to give us that.
Okay. So there may be other problems outside of the fund, but,
The funding could probably take care of most of our problems.
well,
Because
that's true, if you have
right
the
now,
money, you.
We're
you'll
depending
fund
on
the
volunteers,
EMTs,
people
yeah.
to donate their time. Whereas if we had the funding for full-time staff, now you can hire somebody.
Gotcha.
You know, most of our volunteers are working full-time jobs and donating 50 to 70 hours a week to cover the ambulance on top of
Sure.
it. So that's one reason we're looking to go and paid staff, so we can afford to have people there not worrying about coverage.
Kind of where we're at is, like, although the ambulance service are basically in the south end of town, and we go clear to the Champaign and Vermilion County line, we're thinking if we can't keep our ambulance and one has to come from Paris, you're looking at 45 to 50 minutes.
No, I understand that problem, yeah.
That's one of our biggest concerns. And like I've told everybody at our board meeting, I don't care who runs it. I just want an ambulance in Christmas.
Okay.
You know, I'm not trying to, I don't care. I just want it there, whatever it takes. And it's just a location thing.
Right. I think step one is just to figure out how to pay for it first.
Yeah.
I mean, just get, and then figure out.
I was told
Mechanics out of pay.
the original agreement was set up, and this come from Jim Kidder, take it or leave it. He was on the board originally. That when the county threw that at us, and we set up the district, we had the option at that time to take the tax money. They didn't need it, they set it up, the township's funding it. If you go back to, clear back to the beginning of that, when that started, there may be something on the books that could change some of that, that's possibility. Another quick thing, I guess I have, maybe Blake or not, comment to his, we have not put any contracts or anything with Horizon Health. Horizon Health has come up and been very helpful. We short-staffed, they have helped us. We have no agreements in that. They've just been helping us.
And we do have mutual aid agreements both with Horizon and ESC,
Yeah.
whatever they are.
And next, to John's question, he said that ESC or whatever they're called is their primary. Well, currently, that's not the case. There's a protocol, and it's Horizon, and then the Paris ambulance, and then I think Georgetown, then Arrow ambulance. You know, there's priority. So, you know, they could, East Paris ambulance could be called if Horizon's not available.
I just hate to see us going back to the hospital ambulance because, you know, you think sometimes you learn from your mistakes. We've done that before. Didn't work.
Just as some background, this current special ambulance district is getting about $340,000 a year funding through the special levy. And I'd like to remind everybody that the contract for the ambulance service is due up in May of 19. So it does afford us opportunities to work things out, and we're not under the gun, but we don't have a lot of time, but there is time to work things out, and that's important.
Yeah, because it'd be darn nice to figure something out with these guys when we have to renegotiate a contract in May for the other half of the county.
And if stipulations have to be made, they can be made at that point. It may save the taxpayers some money at the same time, because we've obviously, well, not obviously, but we have heard there are numerous people that want to bid on that contract. So, anyway.
If expanding it takes a referendum, you got till August to put on November ballot.
Well, you know, we're trying to get those questions answered, okay? Anything else, gentlemen and lady? Did you have any comments?
I just wanted to let the board know that we in no way, shape, or form want to take over Chrisman's ambulance service. We have been a part of their board meetings for the last several board meetings that they have had. We have attended just to clear up any confusion.
Can you identify?
Samantha McCarty, Director of Emergency Services at Horizon Health. I apologize, Mr. Chairman.
No.
The HH on your blouse gave it away for me.
I know, but I just wanted everybody, please go ahead.
And to Jeremy's comment, we asked them what they were needing for help, and they simply said, we're struggling with getting volunteers to staff the ambulance. And so for a period of about 4 weeks, Horizon Health has been sending staff that we pay up to man their station so that they can remain in service and cover the entire northern half of those citizens, make sure that they're getting access to health care. We, in no way, shape, or form, are here to take over any service. And I would just caution you to look into Coles County in the Mattoon area. They very successfully run 3 private individual ambulance services along with a fire department service, and it works very well in their county.
So you're actually sending people up there just to man the ambulance during like the
Correct.
daytime?
That we pay so that the taxpayers do not have to take that burden, and so that the county is covered.
That's a win-win for us.
Right.
You're not paying for your Horizon pays for that.
Yes, they come out of my budget, their salary and their benefits come out of my budget, but we put them onto the Northern Edgar County roster so that they're operating under the same Carl Regional EMS system that we operate under, so that they're covered under all liability, they're under their liability for driving and that such. But we just want to make sure that people in that northern region have access to health care.
I think the board needs to consider, once we hear from the state's attorney, that probably should set up a committee with representatives from different areas of the county representing the townships, and charge them with the responsibility of looking at the options that the state's attorney, or as you've suggested, some other county models, and then get us to report back in like 4 or 5 months rather than giving us plenty of time, unless there's a referendum question. I guess it just, we'll know once we hear some of the information, so.
Don't go the Effingham County route, because they're gonna implode anymore.
Well, that's fine. I mean, it's not fine, but I'm sure we'll have some individuals on there that will be able to discern what's working and what's not. Okay? Anything else on this issue? Yes.
Dale English, I was on the ambulance board for many years, starting when the hospital ran up before. Went through a lot of turmoil at that time. Only thing I'd like to point out is one of my goals was to make sure we had a paramedic in every ambulance. And it was gonna take 3 or 4 years. We thought Lee Bergen had that job done in about 2 years. But that addresses the point I hope Kevin made. It's a long way up to the corner of the county. And I have nothing against the hospital or anyone else running the service. Should probably put it out for bids next year when the contract's up. But that is one thing I would strongly suggest. Make sure you've got a paramedic in that ambulance for a 45-minute trip. Makes all the difference. Samantha knows more about that than I do.
Hopefully, everybody's goal, no matter what we're trying to do here,
Yes.
is to make sure that we have the best medical transportation system for people who need that service. That saves lives.
Is that law? They don't have a paramedic in there?
No, it isn't.
That's not law. I'm just curious, you said when they initially, I take it when they initially set up the ambulance with, what, 8 counties is it? Down here?
Townships.
Or
Six
townships?
townships. I thought it was
Townships.
seven. Whatever.
Six,
7
okay.
townships, it was set up in '87.
You opted out of that at that point? Was that what you, because you felt you were able to handle it without being part of that at that point in time?
Basically, the county board, they ran it up there for a while, but they couldn't make it work. I think the expenses, they were paying rent at an old gas station, and the hell, the gas bill was over $1,000 a month. I mean, it's just a lot of things. They finally basically give it to us. Dean Andrews was the attorney that drew it all up for us. Like I said, for years and years and years, we ran really well. And, just our expenses and our income just, they've been on jiving.
It started in 1987.
Yeah.
I was trying to find the original money for this one, and I couldn't.
Yeah, I would have to.
But for, at some point, for some reason, there's 6 townships. They want to do it. Embarrass chose to go on their own, as did Kim, just make a separate agreement.
Anything else, John? I'd like to thank everybody for being here in connection with this issue. We will keep you informed, and you're certainly welcome to come back to any of these study sessions. I think this is the best place for it now, as opposed to a regular meeting. Hopefully we'll get there soon enough. Thank you.
I would like to thank Jeff and the rest of the board for taking time to listen to us.
Well, I think once we get some answers from the state's attorney, we probably need, you guys need to come back and we can let you know and we can have some more discussion and.
Very good discussion.
Well, and I like Jeff's point of putting together, get somebody from there, Edgar County Ambulance Service, all the people involved and
Yep.
come up with ideas on the best way to do it.
The bottom line here is we have no problem up there. We just don't have it, so. We'll work with anybody.
All right. Well, you're welcome to stay, but if you need to go, you're welcome to go. You've got some other issues to discuss now, but thanks again.
Okay, thanks again.
Augie, why don't you go first, so I don't forget you?
Nothing like,
If you're not
Put me
prepared,
on the
I'll come
spot.
back to you.
I'm short-staffed, and it is a burden. I'm short-staffed by 2 positions. I've had 2 people hired for the same position, and they, for one reason or another, they turned it down after I'd hired them. Twice that happened to me. And then, as you know, Terry resigned to pursue another opportunity. We wish her well. So we're, I don't know how to say it, but we're in a bind, but we're gonna get through it. So, yes, sir.
I met Jolene this morning.
Thank
She
you.
seems to be a wonderful person.
Yeah.
She's training with Terry this morning,
Yes.
and so you have somebody.
I did
but
hire somebody.
They're not plugged in yet.
They're
so
just getting started in
Jolene,
I don't know her last name.
Douglas.
they're married now?
I didn't ask her. Yeah, well, it has to be because that's
Married.
not her
She's
maiden
married.
name.
That's what's her maiden name, you know?
Baker.
I don't know.
Anyway, she seemed very nice, very professional.
Yeah, and these are, you know, these positions, they take time to learn, and it's not something that's gonna happen in 2 weeks. So, but we have good vendors behind us that we're going to rely on, so. So I would ask that everybody could please understand where we are, and please be patient. We're going to do the very best we can. I don't expect, I don't expect significant delays at all with the counter traffic. I think we're going to try to just keep doing what we're doing. I think we are just about, we're just about done with taxes. I think we can, if not today, tomorrow, hand it off over to Don, and he's gonna look things over. He likes to,
He's already started that.
he's already started that process. And so, be done with that, then Don can mail out the bills.
Well, we wish you luck, but we know everything will work out.
Thank you.
So I assume the first election's gonna be a lot of fun.
I turned mine off.
Yeah,
We've got
Jeff,
guy
you're
coming in.
you're next.
Comes in and helps you. The guy from the.
yeah, on that
Yeah.
on
Like I
that,
say, I think you've got good vendors.
on that day, yes, yeah. We start voting 40 days ahead of time,
Right.
so,
I think I know why.
That's some benefit of a 3.8% unemployment rate in the nation. I mean, it's, once you start, it's hard period to hire people right now.
Well, and, I mean, we talked about it.
Everybody's working.
We talked about it a little bit last study session with, you know, Carl's always been,
Excuse me, gentlemen, I'm sorry. I had
Not
to take that.
happy
My
with
son's sick.
oh, is
Well, we all
with
knew
the
that was an
salary
issue.
spread between the deputies and the other county employees, and,
What
you know,
I
as
did-
much as I hate, we're just talking about
Just
the
talking.
Terry Quinn was.
being short-staffed, and, you know,
I believe we're sitting over a sheriff's deputy, you're not short there, are you?
well, no, my point was,
Story of my life.
and we're not, I mean, it's nothing to deal with now, and we're not gonna accomplish anything in the study session, but at some point, we're gonna have to try to figure out a way to get some salaries just a little bit better in that courthouse if we wanna keep good people.
Well, I just hate to lose a person like her.
Yeah,
Not just is she good at what she, I understand that. and
Yeah, and I don't
I
blame
agree
her
with
a
her
bit.
100%. But sometimes our hands are tied too. But she is a class act, period. Not just that she's good at what she does, she has a great personality and relationship with people that come in there.
She's a straight shooter. You always
Absolutely.
knew when she told you something.
Yeah.
She didn't hold back.
Scared
Crack the
me a
whip.
little bit.
Yeah,
you know,
well,
scared me.
I
yeah.
prefer that to
That's-
somebody saying, oh, everything's fine, and then you.
That's a sad deal. I really don't like that. I don't know what I can do about it.
Jeff?
So, yeah, I did get another jailer hired, gonna start next week, I guess. And put me up to, back up to 5 now, so. See what happens.
Do you want to talk about we all got a copy of the last inspection, and I guess the sheriff's committee is gonna have to look at it with the sheriff.
You know, the state's been in and, you know, I think we've kinda pushed it to the limit on employees, and we're gonna have to.
What did he say, or she? He said, you can either spend the money on new jailers, or you can spend it on the court case
Spend it on
when we
court
sue
case.
you.
It's up to us.
Spend it on what?
Court case.
Because they're, so, I think we're gonna have to look at moving in the direction of at least expanding that staff to show that we're doing something.
Yeah, I mean, that's, and they're just things that we can't keep up on. Well, like right now, we're 40-some people in there. I've got, people. that-
40-some?
40, yeah, I mean, we're loaded right now. And, I mean, honestly, I need to change the sign up front to mental health facility and then put county jail and a little bit of others. Just, I mean, that's what it is right now. It's a mental health problem that we get stuck with, and everybody's, and that's going back to the form of people, you've got to handle them people with kid gloves.
I have a question. I noticed that we have some repairs, extensive repairs on vehicles. Is there something going on? What's the deal?
I can't figure, and got another one broke down yesterday. I don't know. I can't find any reason to think it's just old vehicles falling apart. I mean, they're,
Gosh, I thought we had a lot of new vehicles.
well, not a lot. We got 3, and one of them down right now, out of transmission.
Did those 3 that you ordered, you got them in? How about?
They're lost. The dealership, we ordered them through, went out of business. I mean, just shut the doors. And never.
Our luck's holding, Carl, our luck's holding.
I never called anybody before. And just so happened the parole officer lives over there, and I asked him, I said, I got these vehicles due to come in here next week or 2. I said, could I bum a ride with you? So instead of having to get 2 or 3 guys to go over and get them, I said, let me bum a ride with you, drop me off, and I'll bring one home, and a couple days later, and you're over here, I'll bum another ride, and drop me off, and I'll bring them home in the evening. Well, who'd you get them from? And I told him, and he just kind of laughed. I said, what's so funny? He said, they're out of business. I said, what do you mean they're out of business? He said, yeah, they shut the doors 3 weeks ago.
We didn't send them any money, did we?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we were.
We still got the money. So, that said, I've made a few phone calls, found out who's getting the dealership. But their holdup is now, by not being a state bid dealership, they've got to do a whole bunch of paperwork with Ford Motor Company. They've got the bureaucracy through the state trying to get, their I's dotted and their T's crossed. And the guy called me back and said, we've got 96 orders we're trying to, state bids, or state orders we're trying to get figured out.
So in the meantime, we have 3 new cars ordered, we can't get the.
2 new.
2 new, and we
And I
have the
don't-
money for it, and we,
I don't know if
We're
we're sitting in
paying
the
to
parking
rebuild
lot in
the
Detroit, I don't
transmission.
know if we're sitting in a distribution center in Toronto, Bowling Green, wherever they make them, or what. So that's, yeah, we're just trying to keep what we had running.
How old was the one the transmission went out of? How old was the one the transmission was?
One of them I got 2 years ago.
Is that not a warranty?
Yeah, it's one.
That
That's,
should be warranty.
that wasn't a big deal. I mean, it was a big deal, so the vehicle
For sure.
been down 3 weeks now. So.
Well, you need to get with the committee, and you guys need to start working out how we're gonna address some of the issues.
Like I say, the vehicle just, and evidently they haven't come out with it yet, but they were kind of getting in the process. They've seen enough of these vehicles. Evidently there's computers in these cars. Well, they get where they're sending 2 different signals. One of them saying shift, the other computer saying shift to reverse, so you're going down the road.
That's not good.
Holy cow.
And that's kind of the way I understood
Is this
it.
Ford's?
Yeah.
They also got exhaust problems, don't they? Have you heard about that?
Well, they had something, but that was in, we didn't have that problem.
You didn't have.
I think the biggest problem with that wasn't so much production stuff, it was the aftermarket, when they went to drilling holes, doing the light, running wiring and stuff. I think that was a lot of their, with the carbon monoxide.
Yeah, carbon monoxide.
I think a lot of that, come to find out, was aftermarket stuff.
Okay.
back on the jail report, outside of staffing, I haven't had a chance to go through it yet, I just got it this morning. Was there any other surprises?
Basically the same stuff we get every time.
I still think, and it's only my opinion, that I think at some point we may have to look at closing down the third floor, or the upper floor. And
What do you do, farm out the others?
And then have a line item, we're gonna have an intergovernmental agreement with another jail that we're just, I don't see any other way other than that third floor needs so much work. I don't know how you're ever gonna do it.
Well, it's a staffing thing.
Well,
As much as anything.
it's
to have
both.
The next floor.
It
is.
is both, and if you look at what we have to spend in staff and repairs, and then you look at what we'll,
What we could farm out.
right, it's only my opinion. I think that needs to be looked at closely.
We talked about that before and suggested that, so we need to get serious about it.
I know we got a lot of things, but I mean,
Right.
we're gonna have to deal with that.
Right.
And the state's gotta know that the board, not just the sheriff, the board is serious about it. And I think they think, which is what we've been doing, and we've been putting it off, and we're gonna have to,
Well, we find out the prices on farming people out to others and,
Well, I mean, I've spent anywhere from $20 a person to $45 a person per day.
it's a lot of money.
The problem is, the cheaper,
Yeah,
cheaper places are farther away. Then you're going, of course, it's,
that third floor is
Like this,
costing us a
because-
lot of money.
then you gotta have somebody available to go.
That's what
When
I'm.
the judge calls you at 1 o'clock and says, hey, we need him in here at court at 1:30.
I understand, I didn't say it was gonna be an none of this is easy, but we're gonna have to address it. Or we're gonna,
And I did present with Mark, I had to phone people in, they stopped by a couple of weeks ago when they've got a deal on the phone now for this, some of this, like we talked about the court, where we can do it over the and they've got a kind of a built-in deal now that's, I don't think it's gonna cost us anything, I kinda run it by Mark. It was like right now, they changed these laws, where like anybody, see, used to anybody arrested over the weekend, went to court first thing, you know, you got
48 hours.
48 hours. So first thing Monday morning, I mean, sometimes it was 50 hours, but first thing Monday morning, they were in court. Well, now, up till 4 o'clock on Friday, you know, we can get them in there. I mean, if we arrest somebody at 3:30, they're pounding out reports, we can get them in the courthouse and get them. But anything after from 4 o'clock Friday evening to about 4 o'clock Saturday evening, you know, they've got to have they've got to get together on Sunday afternoon sometime, or Saturday afternoon, it's usually Sunday, and have a first appearance.
So the judge still comes down on the weekend.
Yeah, if we need him, yeah.
All right.
Well, this is something, according to this guy, that, all right, they don't even have to leave home. The judge gets a email, not special email, state's attorney gets an email, and our guy we log in on our screen, and everybody sees everybody
From home?
from home.
is that a possibility when we look at if we should decide to farm out, or at least consider it, is that a consideration so that we wouldn't have to get up, I mean,
No, I mean, that would be something you'd have to consider.
right.
And if the judges knew that we were having some people farmed out, you know, they might be willing to try to give the courtesy to give a little bit more notice.
Right.
You know, if they know we have somebody sitting in, you know, say Effingham County, and just, hey, give us a bit of a heads up to get them up here. You know, I
Well,
think it would.
you're not, the ones that are just arrested, you're not gonna.
No,
automatically
no,
shut them
exactly.
off.
They're
It's-
gonna be here.
A lot of times the sentenced people are ones that doesn't have a court date for a month or
Yeah, I
something.
mean, you'll
You gotta
kind of
plan.
Right.
Plan ahead.
Sure,
It's a choreography.
You know, we've got the,
good word.
you know, we've got them 2 or 3 people, and I've always got them that the other jails had them before, and you say, well, I want to send so-and-so down. Nope, we're not, and they can refuse. If they don't want him, they don't have to take him, so. Of course, them the ones that like to tear stuff up and.
Yeah, those are the ones you don't want in there.
Right.
Anything else, Jeff?
Yes,
We're gonna have a little we're gonna have a closed session on negotiations and personnel here in a little bit.
Derek and I met with the Smart Walk guy. And he is going to come on the June 25th.
Monday?
Monday. He's gonna come to the study session and present. This is basically what he presented to us. And anybody, I'll pass this around, you can all look at it. A lot of it is, of course, lighting, caulking, some HVAC work, controls. And I asked you, do you know if we're, and I, is Ameren is the one out at the airport. He suggested, and that's something that they're doing a lot of, if you've got land like that, you could put in solar system. And they have passed a law, I guess, that if we produce energy out there, used to be you sold it back at a reduced rate if you produce more than you used, but now they passed a law, I guess, that if you use electricity here, we use it at the courthouse, and they're all on Ameren, then we could just simply, whatever we produce comes off our total bill.
And then they would recover some of their expenses off that savings.
It would be a, like a 10 or 12-year payout on those, and then after that, they're ours. And we reap the entire savings off of it. So, and rather than me try to explain it exactly, it's better to listen to him, but I don't know.
Have you been to the Indianapolis airport?
Right.
Okay, you see all the
Yes,
solar, that's,
millions.
Solar panels are on the interstate.
I'm not saying it would look like that exactly, but it would be at least something to well look at and see if we couldn't afford ourselves.
To do something.
Right.
I mean, all that is a budget neutral setup if
Right.
they decide to do it. So if you figure it's a 12-year payout, and he said they've set some of these things up in different municipalities and counties where it's paid itself off in like 7 or 8 years. So, and then you reap the benefits earlier off of it. So anyway, I'll let him explain a little more of it, but there's some definite things that we can do to be more energy efficient. It's money we're gonna spend anyway. And the deal is with this, if they suggest that we do something and we do it and it doesn't come back, pay off in the amount of time that they said it would, they actually match what the difference is between what it actually costs and what they suggested it would cost. So it's a
Kind of lose-lose.
kind of, yeah.
Win-win.
Situation, win-win, no-lose situation. So,
Then I passed out that thing for you on the camera systems.
you did,
But
I
I
haven't had a
guess,
chance to look.
yeah, nobody's had a chance really, we
Did
just
you
got
get my
that.
text about that?
Yeah, I did.
Yes, well,
Would it be possible to have that guy email that report to me so that I can get it
Pass it
out?
out? Yeah, I'll do that. I'll have it. I'll
He'll,
get
he'll
all the
probably
rates.
bring copies when he comes, but it'd be nice to
it
have.
ahead of time.
Yeah, then we wouldn't have
Okay.
to maybe spend so much time reading it as we're hearing about it.
Okay.
well, and it might develop more questions that are more cogent. Cogent? At any rate, at the time, okay? That's the word for it, is cogent.
Where'd you get that toilet
Can we say
paper
that in
right?
public?
I hope it's industrial.
I thought choreography was the word for the day.
Well, I changed it.
Cogent.
I showed up at 1 o'clock that day.
You did?
Yeah. I didn't get your message
Oh,
until later on.
I,
Augie said, you guys already been there and met with him.
sorry. I thought it was at 1 o'clock when I found out. We've gone back and forth quite a few times, and he said 1, and then he came back and changed it to 11, I think. Gotta answer your voicemail.
That's not my priority.
Mr. Tech,
Good.
do you have anything else? John,
Nothing.
Carl? Do you have anything, Phil?
Nope.
I'm trying to figure out what that word means.
Well,
Google it on.
Google it, I was saying Google.
let's go to the
My phone's
agenda.
off.
We've been through the holiday. We're gonna table 10, if that's all right with you, which has to do with the Prospect Bank. We have a prevailing wage adoption scheduled. We have a couple of appointments. The services rendered by Joseph E. Meyer, the current minimum bid is 600, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And they've sent out some feelers, and they think it'd be more appropriate to have 750 being the minimum bid that people offer for land that's being sold for non-payment of taxes. So we have to approve that for Joseph A. Myers as our agent. Then we have a couple of transfers. You'll see the names on there. Then we're reappointing the Board of Review for 1 year, and it's retroactive, and it goes through May 31st, and then once the election's done, then we'll set up. We couldn't find, Augie and Dina couldn't find any records of when and how, the terms and so forth. Then we'll get back in sync with state law after that. Is that correct, Augie?
Yes, sir.
Let's see, Rob Hackett is on the agenda. That's the one that Derek brought to us for the advisory board. And then the sheriff and the county clerk's semi-annual report. Do you guys have any questions about the agenda? Okay. One of the things I wanted to talk about, I did go to the advisory board meeting the other night. There was not a big crowd, but we did explain the letter, and I took copies of the email that we got from Malachnik authorizing us to proceed with contracts, and the engineer is on it. We're gonna have a meeting next week in Springfield with Derek, our airport manager, and myself to meet with staff in aeronautics. Then there'll be meetings, a series of meetings to follow at the actual airport with our staff there, where they'll do on-site work and finish up the final stuff that they have to do. We'll also find out next week the ramifications of the new grant program on infrastructure that the federal government has now approved and is available. And supposedly we are eligible for those funds. Both Malachnik and our engineers have told us that. And that may be possible, you know, and I'm not gonna over-expound on it because we really don't know a lot of information on it, but it may relieve us of some of our responsibilities as far as the 5 and 10%, depending on the project. And it also may be possible that we'll be able to accelerate the program that we have. So there's two different things we're hopeful of.
Now, the grant funding that you're referring to, that's purely aviation?
Yes.
Okay.
There's no federal, it's all generated from
Right.
landing fees and so forth at all the airports. Now, this new program, this new infrastructure program, which is based on population and economic growth in the, or situation in the county, I can't tell you where that's from.
Okay, well, I guess what I was wondering is if I didn't know if that affected any of our road projects potentially or
No.
not, or if it's
That's a
purely
different program.
aviation, okay, fair enough.
Do you have any, and it was a pretty good meeting. There are several people said, let's start a new beginning here, and we'll see whether that happens or not. But we're hopeful that everybody's moving forward and productive. Carl?
While you're at that meeting, you need to make sure we don't forget about that funding, the money for the beacon.
Absolutely. In fact, that's already been mentioned, and,
Yeah.
yeah, because we spent, what, 14,000 on that, I believe.
Yeah.
Right. That question did come up. Jimmy wanted to know about that question. And I was going to another meeting, and I really wasn't going to get into a debate with him about it. So, and one thing leads to another and another and another. So But we're moving forward, and we're looking forward to the day when we can break ground, and I think the paper had it right. Probably don't look for any construction this year, but some things can be ordered, like large tanks, some of the infrastructure that we need that has to be special made. All of those things could happen. That doesn't mean that a contract won't be let this year, but actual construction probably won't take place till next spring, okay? I did notice the thing, the circuit clerk had billed her regular funds in Fund 100 for $21,500. That's being changed to document storage, so $21,000 will not be coming out of general fund. It'll be coming out of dock storage. Do we have anything on the levy, Augie? Everything's fine on the levy. That's going to bed. Don said he's looking forward to doing his thing, but I'm sure on Wednesday morning he'll give you more information. I didn't get a copy of the budget yet because not everything's in it, but I'll have that for you on Wednesday morning. Let me just run through this. I guess that's it. Do you have questions of me?
One
Yes.
quick question while we're still in open session. What was John Kraft referring to as far as redistricting the county board seats?
Every 10 years, once it's based on census figures.
Yes.
We will look at the townships and the
Make
amount
sure
of
the balances are right. Okay.
Correct, and we do that every 10 years, once we have the census figures, and we make sure that, I think, it's 18 or 1,900 people roughly per, whatever
Per-
it is. Yeah,
Right.
okay,
Okay.
that's what
So
it's
it's
about.
just an ongoing thing that we all know about. Okay.
I think so.
Every 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
It may not change, but it may change.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, I need a motion to go in executive session for the purposes of negotiations and personnel.
So moved.
John moves. Andy seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. We are going into executive session as soon as Augie gets us plugged in. Do you have? Okay, we're out of closed session. The only other thing I wanted to tell you was Joe Doherty will be there on Wednesday morning. I know if any of you looked at the audit, you'll freak out a little bit because you see that our net worth is now includes our IMRF fiduciary responsibilities. He's going to explain that. John and I have been talking about that because, I mean, I spent 5 or 6 hours reading that thing and trying to understand it. Talked to Joe twice because it shows us with a shortfall of about over $3 million over the lifetime, but he can explain that. And this is new things that the state is requiring us to include in our audits. So we're in pretty good shape, he swears. And so we'll go from there. But I wanted to tell you, feel free to ask questions about IMRF. You might look at that towards the front, and it'll help you. Hopefully, if you have questions about it, he'll be able to quell your concerns on Wednesday morning. So that was all I had. I'm sorry I forgot that, but we've had a lot going on this morning. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
John moves. Phil seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you guys for your patience, and